A strong coastal storm system is developing this morning off the coast of the southeast and is forecast to bring impacts along the eastern seaboard as we get into this weekend into early next week. Here to give you all the detailed information on this developing storm. We'll focus a lot on impacts. After that, we'll break down today's weather across the entire lower 48. We'll spend a little extra time on the southwest. There is a bit of a flooding threat throughout the weekend from tropical moisture getting pulled north out of the eastern Pacific. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below so I can do that. And it gives many others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm making this video a good bit earlier than I normally do. I'm heading to the mountains for the day to check out some colorful leaves and things like that. But anyways, let's break down what's going on right now. First off, let's circle this. This is the main story. This is a developing nor'easter. You know, we can call it a coastal storm, whatever you want to call it, but it's not tropical. It has no tropical characteristics with it, no warm core, but you can see all the convection off the coast of the southeast indicated by the colors you see on your screen, colder cloud tops. So we got a lot of heavy rain, convection, shower and storm activity, and this is just the beginning stages. Well, it's pretty much already getting going of this coastal storm, nor'easter, as energy's connecting in the atmosphere, and we're getting a blow up of energy in the atmosphere, and that's in the form of shower and storm action. We also got tropical storm Jerry. Has not done much strengthening. The structure of this storm has just really struggled. So regardless, it's bringing a lot of storm activity and just tropical activity for the Lesser Antilles. Strong storm activity ongoing right now. So this is going to continue to pull north and go this general direction. And after it moves out the Lesser Antilles, not really bother anybody else after that. Karen did form way up in the North Atlantic. Not going to speak on that much. I'll show you a graphic here that shows Karen here in a second, but it looks like the name that everybody was kind of talking about, Karen, for obvious reasons, is not going to be with us very long. So it doesn't look like we're going to have Hurricane Karen or anything like that. But this is our main story right here. So let's show you the graphic from the National Hurricane Center, and there is Karen up here. Actually, a subtropical storm. It developed last night, will not be with us much longer, way up here in the cooler waters of the North Atlantic. And there's Jerry down here. It actually weakened. It's down to a 60-mile-per-hour tropical storm. We'll have a very, very small segment on Jerry here in a bit, but not going to speak much on it right now. So let's get very detailed on this nor'easter coastal storm. So we're going to start south and then go north. And we're going to show you a model run first of everything, and then we'll dive deep into impacts. I want to show some love to Florida. Florida had some nasty weather along the eastern seaboard last night. And as we're getting into later, let's actually back it up a little bit. This is this afternoon. You see the green blobs of yellow and orange. This is just shower and storm activity. So expect just a dicey day of weather, especially the further east you get in the peninsula of Florida. And really, as you're getting into northeast Florida, this is where you could get a lot of gusty winds and just shower and storm activity. Nothing too crazy that you guys in Florida can't handle, but just expect some dicey weather, especially the further east you get in Florida. But we get into this evening, and then we get into the overnight hours, and we get into tomorrow morning. There's that low pressure showing up on your screen. Could still be dealing with some activity here near Jacksonville, near Gainesville. And then I think this begins to pull away. So as we start to get later in the day tomorrow, I think things begin to relax, and actually could get a little bit of dry air to get yanked down, so that'll be nice. But I did just want to show you guys now. We move a little bit further up the eastern seaboard. We show more areas of the southeast and the mid-Atlantic getting into southern New England, and we move this forward. This is the latest Euro. I'm just going to stick with one model run here. I like what the Euro is showing. And let's actually move a little bit more. There we go. And this is getting into this evening. You can see moisture already pulling up. This is late this evening. I'm talking about like 10, 11 o'clock. You can see a lot of heavy rain starting to move into South Carolina and areas of southeast North Carolina. And then as we start to get into tomorrow morning, probably going to wake up to a big plume of moisture affecting areas of eastern North Carolina, maybe about half of South Carolina. And then as we are starting to get into tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, you see this yellow and this orange right here. This is where we could have heavy heavy moisture from this system, some strong gusty winds, maybe some 20 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts. But of course, the more you get tucked into the actual coastline, the Outer Banks, and just Wilmington, up into the southern areas of the Outer Banks, this is where your folks get hit particularly hard, with these stronger wind gusts, 30, 40, 50 mile per hour winds. And as we're getting into tomorrow evening, this is where things could get dicey out in the Outer Banks, where we could start to have issues. And unfortunately, it's going to happen overnight. You can't see a whole lot of anything. And then we're starting to get into late tomorrow night. You can see this. Some of this rain will have an opportunity. And model guidance, is a little bit different on this. How far west will some of this moisture kind of get slung, if you will, westward into the Carolinas? It hasn't gotten all the way to Columbia now. And definitely into Raleigh. And then something kind of odd happens. Kind of some leftover energy gets trapped down here, and it almost looks like a new low pressure tries to develop up here. But this is interesting. Getting into Sunday morning, we got some heavier stuff kind of getting pushed back into Georgia, central South Carolina. And we could get some stronger wind gusts with this. Nothing too crazy. 1,001 millibar low right off the coastline of South Carolina. It's interesting to see how this is going to work. And it stinks, but we still got question marks as we kind of have a low pressure that almost gets pushed into maybe the southeast coastline, and then sort of a new low pressure develops. And this is getting into late Sunday evening, and this kind of delivers kind of almost a new system. It's almost like you have a new connection. Energy kind of connects up to the north, and another low pressure develops. And this is in the Monday morning. And Model Guidance was teasing this yesterday and now kind of locking into the idea of it this morning. Another low pressure develops, 1,002 millibar low, and this begins to get some weather ongoing across southern New England, New York City, Long Island. This is where we'll have an opportunity to get some dicey weather until Monday. So some of these yellows, orange, this is some gusty winds embedded into some of this heavy rain. And then the low pressure could actually get close to maybe the mid-Atlantic coastline. When I say that, I'm talking about Delaware, the Tidewater, Delmarva, Jersey Shore. And it does look kind of void of activity at this point, and then it kind of just spins away. So a weird looking system, right? It's kind of like a dual mode low pressure. And just to show some extra love to the northeast, we'll have some kind of pre-event action with energy diving down from the north that actually connects with some energy to the south that actually causes this low pressure to develop off the coast of New England. And here it comes, and then we're getting into Monday, and I think sometime Monday morning, this is where we really have to watch out for southern New England and Long Island, the Jersey Shore, and this is when we could have our worst weather up here as we're getting into Monday afternoon. So you see, New Jersey, Long Island, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Long Island, getting some of your worst weather, and all out nor'easter. And listen, I know some people don't want to hear this hyped up, and I'm not really hyping it up. I mean, it's like equivalent to a nor'easter. You guys get this a few times a year. Seems like we've kind of been void of it the last few winters and falls, but this is kind of a funky system, not kind of a system that develops and just shoots up the eastern seaboard. It's kind of like a too low pressure mode, if you will. But anyways, once again, starting from south to north, and we're going to talk about winds and rainfall. Rainfall, Florida, between now and all these graphics are between now and about Tuesday evening of next week, right? So a few inches of rain along the eastern seaboard of Florida. Nothing too crazy, but be mindful of this. Some gusty winds is possible, but nothing too wild. 20 to 30, maybe a 35 mile per hour wind gust up against the northeast Florida coastline, Georgia coastline. I wouldn't expect anything too crazy out of this. And then we go up to the rest of Georgia, South Carolina. Now listen, I think that this rainfall forecast, let's actually see if we can get not change at all. I think that this rainfall forecast could change a little bit for Columbia to Rock Hill, maybe even Augusta. I think that maybe some rain could get going in some of these areas tomorrow evening, maybe a quarter, half an inch of rain. So I actually expect some of these rainfall totals to maybe increase in this area, but nothing high impact. But once you get into the South Carolina coastline, 1 to 2 inches of rain is possible with this. As far as wind speeds, this is the National Weather Service forecast. It's going to be a breezy day. Listen, I said it earlier this week. Today, tomorrow, across areas of the Carolinas, even Georgia, heck, even up into Virginia, it's going to be it's going to be kind of a mood setter, right? It's going to have some breezy conditions. The further east you get, more clouds than sun, and cooler temperatures. I mean, it's not going to feel tropical outside. It's going to more so feel like a breezy fall, October, kind of somewhat overcast day. So, that'll kind of get you in the October fall spirits. Who doesn't like a nice cloudy day, cool day in October? I know I do. But anyways, some 20, 30 mile per hour wind gusts, definitely breezy across South Carolina, areas of Georgia, North Carolina. And then if you look at, say, North Carolina up into Virginia, I mean, you can see there is a tight gradient of rainfall, but I could see it increasing a little bit for right here, kind of Charlotte to Greensboro, maybe up to Winston-Salem. But most of the rainfall will fall out in eastern North Carolina. Once you get out into the Outer Banks, over 4 inches of rain could fall. But the bigger story there is just strong winds, beach erosion, losing some more houses, unfortunately. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But it just seems inevitable every time you get one of these coastal storms these days. But, from Wilmington up to Virginia Beach, 3 inches, maybe the under, the over, just depends. But not it's not like you're going to get 10 inches of rain, guys, but certainly some heavy rain with this. And you look at wind speeds, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but they're really not going very high winds out in the Outer Banks. It looks like the worst of it could be further north up the coastline. But I would say right now, from all the graphics I've seen, anywhere from 30 to as much as 50 mile per hour wind gusts are possible. Stout onshore flow, depending on the position of this low pressure. It could switch, come out of a different direction as low pressure kind of shifts in time. But for the most part, it looks like they're forecasting some of the highest winds, like once you get into the tidewater, just a little bit further up the coastline. But certainly I could get that 60 mile per hour wind gusts out in the Outer Banks, really anywhere, and even some gusty winds further inland into North Carolina, things like that. So moving a little bit further up the eastern seaboard, getting into that tidewater area, the Delmarva, even near DC, Baltimore. Few inches of rain is possible to likely in these areas. Some areas could get closer to 3.5, 4 inches of rain around Dover, Salisbury, things like that. So be aware of that as far as wind gusts in these areas. Listen, this is when it can get dicey, guys. Up into the coastal waterways and just in some of these areas, Delmarva, Tidewater, 30, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts. And as you can tell, you look at the Jersey Shore area, this is where some of the worst winds will likely be. And this is between now and Sunday evening. So really, this isn't the completion of the storm. That's why I always wait to show you these graphics from the National Weather Service, because the entirety forecast of the storm is not all the way through and only goes about 66 hours out. So definitely some strong wind gusts in here and potential for damaging wind gusts and just issues along the beach areas, beach erosion. Just be aware. It's pretty much a strong nor'easter moving through. But moving a little bit further up, and this is going to show a little bit more of New Jersey. A few to even several inches of rain is forecast. Jersey Shore is probably going to get the worst of this as far as rainfall, winds, and just pretty much all the worst impacts, in my opinion, will be right up against New Jersey and the coastal areas. But some areas could get 4 to 5 inches of rain and just a few inches of rain elsewhere. It's going to be a big rainmaker for this area. Nothing too crazy like catastrophic flooding or anything like that, but certainly a big rainmaker in this area. And here's a look at winds. And remember, this is just between now and Sunday evening. But look at these strong wind gusts up against the Jersey Shore. Even some strong gusty winds, 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts possible in the New York City, up against Long Island and the coastal areas. Same thing. But some areas can get closer to 45, 50 mile per hour wind gusts. So be aware of this, guys. But if you live in this area, I definitely think this is where you're going to see the worst of the storm system. That could shift a little bit, but for right now, that's what I'm seeing. And, if you look at, say, the European model, shows those strongs. And in fact, I'm going to take a wider look at this really quick because I've missed a couple areas. And, I think the Euro does a great job of pretty much reflecting what the National Weather Service is showing. Does have a little bit of some stronger wind gusts up down into the Outer Banks, pushing closer to 50, 55 mile per hour wind gusts. But certainly the strongest, right up against kind of the mid-Atlantic coastline to southern New England coastline, for sure. So moving a little bit further up the coast, these are some of the last areas I'll show you. This is wind speed forecast as far as wind gust. And nothing too crazy in southern New England at all. Some 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts are possible out in, Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, things like that. But listen, you guys are used to these storms. I don't think it's going to be huge or anything like that. Let's see if I missed a couple areas. No, I didn't. So just to show some love up to Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, this is how much rain you guys are forecasting. Nothing too crazy at all. And just show you some individual graphics. We'll work south to north again. This is out of, I think, Wilmington. There was nothing really up for Charleston, but just discussing minor to possibly moderate tidal flooding. So if you want to pause that, probably a little bit difficult to see on your screen. Some of these graphics come in pretty blurry. And listen, the National Weather Service out of Moorhead, Newport, which covers the Outer Banks, the rest of eastern North Carolina, did have a video on this that I think it's definitely worth watching if you live in these areas, especially the Outer Banks. And maybe I can remember to put this link in the description below. But they get very detailed on all the potential impacts and how, depending on the position of this low pressure, definitely is going to mean everything as far as impacts. So a little bit further up, this is National Weather Service out of Wakefield, and they don't have much on it, but they do discuss the possibilities of a high impact storm system. So, and then this is the National Weather Service out of Mount Holly, and talks about an area where I think is going to get the worst of it, and just discusses the location, the timing, the impacts. So pause the screen if you want. So this is from the experts, human beings at the National Weather Service in the New Jersey area, which covers this region if you want to know kind of this area right in here. It's crazy. We actually have frost advisories. It's pretty chilly in these areas right now. You would think with a nor'easter developing, you would have a winter storm on the way, but it's a little too early in the season for that. And here's a graphic from the National Weather Service out of New York. Very blurry on this, but high wind watches are up for Long Island and areas of the Jersey Shore. And this is just I would say a graphic on the entire storm system itself. And this was issued yesterday afternoon. If you want to pause it, check this out. But moving forward here, that's it with the nor'easter. We'll try to have another update on that probably sometime tomorrow morning, see what's going on. But this is Jerry. Jerry's still a tropical storm. Did just want to show some love, show the cone of this. And Bermuda, you're still way away from the cones. You don't have to worry. Going to bring some large swells to you guys, but nothing too crazy. But it's now forecast to be a hurricane by sometime later this weekend. There's just been a weaker trend with this. So, not worth really discussing any more than that. But as far as today's weather, guys, we do have a lot of moisture out in the southwest. This is from precipitation from, I think, what was Hurricane Priscilla or something. I'm not going to pretend like I keep track of the Eastern Pacific. I really don't. I actually saw one comment that was like, dude, are you going to talk about what's going on with the hurricane in the Eastern Pacific? And I just don't talk about anything with the Eastern Pacific, guys. So, that's why I don't. My dog is right here. It is very early making this video, so I let him out really early, and he was knocking at the door over here. So if I'm a little distracted in this part of the video, I do apologize. I got my husky right here beside me to my right. I need to watch him so he doesn't get in the cat box over there. You know how dogs can be with cat boxes. But anyways, big plume of moisture in the southwest, a little bit of moisture in the western areas and the upper Midwest and Midwest. We got some moisture, even some heavier stuff in Iowa. And then there is all that moisture brewing off the coast of the southeast, ready to ride up the coastline. He's such a doofus sometimes. But watches, warnings, and advisories. A lot of freeze warnings out across New England. And of course, we got warnings up across areas where, we have a nor'easter on the way. And then we have flood watches up against the Florida coastline and the South Carolina coastline. Things like that. Actually, I don't think those are flood watches. I think those are just like coastal flood warnings. But flood watches across the southwest. Winter storm watches. Make sure this is right. Yeah, winter storm watches across the northern Rockies. Just getting to that time of the year, guys. I love it. But as far as any kind of severe weather potential, nothing, just general risk of thunderstorms. But the flooding threat, there is a slight risk of flash flooding in the yellow. Las Vegas, down to Yuma, Kingman. You guys have a 15% risk. Flagstaff, 15% risk of, no. 15% risk of flash flooding within 25 miles in any given location. So be aware of this. Tomorrow's worse. This is centered right over Flagstaff. All right, we're good. Sorry, guys. Center, it's a little bit of a different morning. Making this video a lot earlier. My wife isn't quite up yet. I mean, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning right now. But there's a 40% risk of flash flooding. I mean, tomorrow's flooding threat could be legit across areas of Arizona especially. So, but as far as today across the southeast, this nor'easter is going to get going. Look at all this moisture building off the coast of the southeast. A lot of it won't move inland quite yet. We'll kind of just hang out off the coast of the southeast. But as we're starting to get to tomorrow morning, this is when a lot of this moisture, this is when things really get going. As we wake up tomorrow morning across areas of eastern Carolinas, things like that, the winds will pick up, and this is really I would say day one, truly day one of this storm system, but not a whole lot today besides showers and storms across Florida. The northeast is pretty quiet today too. Some northern stream energy is about to dive down. You can see it right here and connect. And this is your classic big time winter storm setup in the winter, except, it's still early October. But, as we're waking up tomorrow morning, energy will be flying through in the form of some light rain. Rain is starting to build, some sprinkles across the mid-Atlantic, southern New England coastline. Got a little bit of energy cruising across southern Ontario, but no high impact weather whatsoever. Then we get into tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, across the south central U.S. Pretty quiet. Some moisture just kind of riding up through Colorado. It's just been, it's been very quiet weather-wise across the southern plains. I mean, there's been nothing to talk about for what seems like over a month. So it's quiet weather. Moving forward here and looking at the north central U.S., we got some of that northern stream energy flying through. So we're going to get some just rain this morning across the UP and Michigan. Eventually makes it into the lower Michigan area. And by the time we're into this evening, just scattered sprinkles, light rain across lower Michigan, northern Indiana, swinging into areas of northern Ohio later tonight. A little bit of moisture kind of building up through the Dakotas and Nebraska. And then the western U.S., big plume of moisture getting all the way up to Wyoming and getting into Colorado, Utah. So kind of like two things going on, spinning the low pressure off the coast of the Pacific Northwest. A lot of moisture pulling up out of the Pacific across the Southwest. So, and this moisture will continue even into tomorrow. Some cold air will dive in, and then we're going to get a winter storm across higher elevations in the northern Rockies. And this is just how much rainfall is forecast between now and about Tuesday evening. Look at all this rain. I mean, this is a lot of rain for this area of the country. So go on and get ready for this. Flooding threat will be legit. This is Arizona. Let's show you New Mexico. Okay. And then let's head on up into Nevada and Utah. How much rain's forecast in these areas. And let's show some love to Colorado too. So a lot of rain, guys. A lot of moisture. Temperatures today, it'll be chilly across the northeast. I mean, for sure. I mean, it's going to be a classic October fall chilly day. Even the southeast, beautiful. In my opinion, it's like your picture perfect fall day across the southeast. You got a breeze, you got some clouds. Some areas won't see clouds, but it's nice. It's not very hot really anywhere in the country. Texas, still pretty warm, but really nowhere across the country is, I would say, super duper hot or anything like that. And then this is the western U.S. Guys, that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. And, I'm probably going to drop this video in a couple hours. Going to wait a little bit. But I'm actually going to the mountains, just me, myself, and I for the day to check out some leaves. And going to drive up probably towards about Cherokee, then just drop back south through some of the roadways and get way up there. A lot of areas in the mountains have not changed much, not a lot of colorful areas, but if you get a few thousand feet up, you start to see a lot of color. So just going to go find those areas, chill, and come on back home for this evening. So definitely asking for prayers for safe travels and things like that. But did just want to get this video out before I left this morning, get you guys some new information. Sorry about some distractions with my dog, but that's going to happen. But God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful Friday, and I'll talk to you again soon. God bless.